In the wake of last Friday's events, there's been a lot of talk, of course, about national identity. We like to consider ourselves a pretty tolerant bunch.
But there are those who now say we've been turning a blind eye to some ugly behaviour. Behaviour that now seems completely intolerable. Here's Aaron Soma with people who know firsthand about the impact of racism here.
I've had my hijab ripped off, I've had eggs thrown at me, and I've had someone spit right in my face.
I've had staff swear at me and told me to f*** off because I was teaching a lecture on white privilege.
Literally getting chased by skinheads on my way into from school.
The experiences aren't skin deep. They puncture people's hearts.
So there's still that fear and suspicion and, just that negative narrative about us still pushing through. Even during our time of grief, even during our time of trauma, we are still being accused of being terrorists. New Zealand has a racist problem. We are a colonised country. We have to understand that there is an issue there, a colonial settler mindset.
We're here to celebrate white pride and we're all proud to be Europeans.
The rhetoric is real, whether it's overseas...
They're bringing crime, they're rapists...
...or here in Aotearoa.
He'd been a very cheeky darky.
2 Chinese would be more valuable than 2 Indians, I have to say.
When director Taika Waititi called it out, saying...
New Zealand is as racist as...
He was shut down.
They stopped selling us out on the international stage. There is a word for it, and it's called sabotage.
Guled Meyer arrived from war-torn Somalia to another battle here.
People in this country, they're living in complete denial about the very form of racism that exists in Aotearoa. I'm done talking about race with white people. I'm done, because it's honestly like banging your head against a brick wall.
When Friday's attack was streamed online, an underbelly rose up.
He was being cheered on by hundreds of people on these channels, including New Zealanders.
He is every one of us. He is every one of our vile, discriminatory, evil thoughts and behaviours and practices. He's very much one of us.
Camille believes everyday racism is the enabler.
There is racism in all institutions, the police, health, education, and that is the failure of New Zealand to recognise that.
Surprisingly, New Zealand's Race Relations Commissioner role has been vacant for more than half a year. And that's just one of the issues. 1 in 3 human rights complaints are race-based, but not everyone speaks out. Not all racial actions are covered under human rights law, and police don't record crimes as hate-motivated.
Currently, if a mosque is defiled or a synagogue, that's classified as property damage or vandalism.
In Melbourne, we interviewed former Race Relations Commissioner Dame Susan Devoy.
I was always amazed how offended people were. More offended by being called racist than they were by the actions that they'd done themselves. So, we've taken the scab off a very big sore.
Out of adversity, these community leaders are determined to be the voice of change.
I'm mad because it's taken us a national tragedy, 50 lives lost, for us to be in a position where we're actually talking about this. Was our voices not enough that whole time?
What happened on Friday the 15th, those murders, was the end of our innocence. No, it's the end of our shameful secret of racism in New Zealand.
We need to normalise Muslim voices because we actually are Kiwis at the end of the day. We're human beings. That has to be accepted, that has to be acknowledged.
Hate speech is a crime under the Human Rights Act, but I was astounded to hear, I just could not believe this, that the last time someone was prosecuted for hate speech in this country was more than 40 years ago. And yet you look at that story and you see all of those New Zealanders were victims of hate speech. So it needs all of us to call it out, but we also need those social media platforms monitored and for people to be held account for what they say online, for the comments that they make online.
And if you want to lay a complaint with the Human Rights Commission, we've got all the details on how to do that on our Facebook page.